The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Your Vancouver Canucks have been blessed with star power so far this season, with multiple guys who are in the running for the Hart Trophy. Well, guess what? There are two guys standing out above the rest, and I'm going to tell you one guy who I think is a sneaky Hart Trophy candidate. You're listening to the Sneaky MVP Among Canucks podcast, Locked On Canucks, baby.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, Vancouver? You're listening to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer and part-time credentialed media member for Daily High Vancouver, and also your co-host here on Locked On Canucks. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you. Yes, you listening right now. Hopefully not out for a rainy day walk, although it's just rain, baby. It's all good. But wherever you're listening, we appreciate you for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on today's episode of Locked On Canucks, Kyle and I, we're both going to appear on the show, but in different segments of the show because we're separated by the weather today. Lots going on in Vancouver. My basement flooded. Kyle's got no water in his pipes this morning. It's been a rough last 12 to 24 hours for the co-host of Locked On Canucks. So what we've decided to do for today is debate over who the Canucks MVP has been so far. And, you've seen the list, okay? Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Thatcher Demko, all deserving some love so far for the Hart Trophy. Even Jay Fresh on Twitter ran a poll recently, and Quinn Hughes was voted as the Hart Trophy favorite right now, with Elias Pettersson actually coming in third. Nikita Kucherov sandwiched in between the two. JT Miller, way down that list in 10th place. Well, guess what? I got to tell you, I think the Canucks MVP so far this season has been JT Miller. And I think he's a sneaky Hart Trophy candidate who is not getting enough love for what he's doing right now. And if you haven't heard it already, don't go listen to it. But there was a guy on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, Paka, who cares, a Vancouver guy who ripped JT Miller for being, getting too many points in the power play, being overrated. Yeah, maybe that was the JT Miller from a couple of seasons ago, but this version of JT Miller is the best version of JT Miller that we have seen so far in a Vancouver Canucks sweater. I think Quinn Hughes, and deservedly so, is still taking a lot of the attention this season. And how could he not? 9 goals in 25 games. He's already set a career high in goals. He's 5th overall in the NHL in points, tied with Cale Makar. Not bad stuff from a defenseman. But, for me, I think JT Miller, again, one of the reasons he's not getting enough love for his game is, again, A, he's not a defenseman. But B, if you look at the underlying numbers, which, a lot of guys are looking at right now, JT Miller's underlying numbers, not the best. But what's important to remember is this guy, every goddamn game right now, is going up against the opposition's top players. And you know what he's doing? He's winning his matchups. Remember, there was a lot of people in this market, Thomas Drance, chief among them, who thought that this guy could not play center in the NHL, or not, at least not effectively play center in a top 6 role, and that he was best suited on the wing. And not to throw Drance under the bus, I think that was a take from a lot of people. Now, I think JT Miller's gone and proven a lot of those people wrong. You look at JT Miller's underlying numbers right now, and, a lot of it does seem fairly sustainable. You look at his on-ice save percentage, for instance, right? Right now, the Canucks are stopping 91.9% of their even strength shots with JT Miller on the ice. That's actually the 4th lowest mark on the team. So it gives him a PDO of 103.9, which is slightly high, but really among Canucks skaters is actually slightly towards middle to the bottom of the list there. So when I see JT Miller right now, what he's doing is he's not making the glaring mistakes that he was before. Positionally, he's in good shape, and I think we've heard JT Miller talk about it to reporters so far this season when, last season we were criticizing him for the lack of back check. That might have come out of frustration. But when you look at some of the mistakes he was making last year, it was because he was trying to do too much. He was trying to make that extra play because the team was struggling. because he knew that he was one of the go-to guys, the elite guys, if you will, on this team who had to make a difference. So he tried to do too much, and often he got burned for it. And I think, again, what you're seeing this season is he's not making those little mistakes. He's been sound positionally. And I'm just going to say right now, and this is nitpicking to the nth degree, between Quinn Hughes and JT Miller, I think JT Miller has played more mistake-free hockey. Like, really, one of the only blemishes that I can think of in recent memory is what? He gets, poke checked by Cale Makar, loses the puck to Cale Makar, and Cale Makar goes and scores on a breakaway. I think Hughes and Hronek, after being so dominant in October, started to show their cracks a bit. Now, again, nitpicking to the nth degree, they've still been one of the best defensive pairings in hockey. But there's just been moments, whether it's on the penalty kill or at even strength, where pucks are starting to get through them in a way that wasn't happening in October. I just don't think you're seeing that out of JT Miller. Now, again, I got to be honest here. Honest person, honest podcast. JT Miller and Brock Besser was not a combo I liked going into the season. And I think maybe one of the most under-discussed stories in this market is how good that duo has been defensively. Shout out to Brock Besser as well. Not only is he scoring goals, but defensively, he's looking as good as he's ever looked. And that duo, they're smothering in a way that we haven't seen. And this is kind of the mantra of the Canucks right now. They become a stingy team all of a sudden. The high danger chances, they were the most permissive team in the league last year. Now they're middle of the pack. But a lot of that is because of JT Miller and Brock Besser. Again, they are playing against the best team's players on a nightly basis. That ain't easy to do. And especially for a guy who was considered, not being able to play center at the NHL level. And all of a sudden, here he is on a nightly basis, looking like one of the best defensive centers in the NHL on a team that is one of the best teams in the NHL. Now, I got to bring up one of the worst takes of all time, because this is an all-time bad take, okay? And I'm going to say, not to throw Jeff Villette under the bus, but I'm throwing him under the bus again. So this was the tweet around the trade deadline last year when JT Miller did not get traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins despite rumors. Jeff Villette said, quote, "If Pittsburgh offered 2 7th-round picks for JT Miller without any form of salary retention, the Canucks should have taken it. The extension means everything and kills any value he would have had as a rental. If you're offered a parachute out of the deal, you take it and jump." Now, look, a lot of people in this market were trying to run JT Miller out of town, and I got to shout out my co-host, Kyle Bhawan, big JT Miller fan. He always makes the joke that I hate JTs because, Justin Timberlake, he dated one of my crushes when I was a kid. So, big JT hater. But in all honesty, again, Kyle, got to give him credit. He's been more bullish on JT than me, but I've always been a fan of JT Miller. I think the reasons for wanting him out of this market for a lot of fans was fair. I think he was the best player at the time. He was older than the core. And if you're entering some sort of rebuild, retool, he was the best chip on the table to go out and get assets. Now, shout out to Alvin and Rutherford, despite the majority of this market saying it's time to trade this guy, he's about to go downhill. They stuck to their guns and they resigned him, and they chose him over Bo Horvat. And that's been a defining choice for this regime so far. Bo Horvat, yeah, he's doing all right over in the island, making his $8.5 million. But we're talking about JT Miller here, who for me is the Canucks MVP so far, past the quarterway mark of the season. And man, oh man, I'm excited to see what's in store for JT Miller the rest of the way. We'll see who Kyle has as MVP on this side. Actually, I know. He's going to pick Quinn Hughes, okay? He's going to pick Quinn Hughes. Maybe talk a bit about the Devils versus Canucks matchup tonight. I'm going to be in the arena. My first game as a beer-drinking fan in some time. You got to love it. The sweet taste of $15 brewskis. What a time it is to be a fan of your Vancouver Canucks. Before we get to Kyle, I got to let you know, when you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for the candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. One thing I love about Indeed is that, they got instant match, and that reminds me of me, because I'm the Flash, baby. I get it done quick. But who gets it done even quicker is Indeed with Instant Match. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to U.S. data. Indeed does the hard work for you. Sponsor a job and boom! Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have job requirements. So make sure you go visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application price not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Okay, we back on another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan, but more importantly, this is the show that produces that West Coast bias, gives you your Canucks every day. A shout out to the Don't Doze Art Lab for making everything possible. And man, oh man, shout out to you for doing even more than the Don't Doze Art Lab, and that's providing all the gas, all the motive, all the inspiration. That's the truth, man, for real. The connectivity, it's what this is all about. All that being said, how can this relationship that you and I have be real if I don't keep it real with you? And I got to say, I think we just lied to you for a lot of minutes. We just saw Beggsy talk about JT Miller for minutes and minutes and minutes. And this was supposed to be a debate. I was supposed to bring up another candidate to be the MVP of your Canucks so far. But how can I do that when my heart tells me that this is no debate? No debate. Which is crazy. Because it should be, because what? Quinn Hughes. He's that guy. And he's been that guy, and he will be that guy for years to come. But man, oh man, I cannot think of this team without JT Miller. He's the engine. And he's been damn consistent all season long. And I feel as if he's played 4 bad periods, 5 bad periods for your Canucks. I think Quinn Hughes has played maybe 9 or 11 or 12. I'm doing that. I'm walking a fine line. But the difference in, again, periods in which players play bad in this debate really won this debate for JT Miller. All in all, the dude is a gamer. He's that guy. And I'm an old guy. Speaking of which, my back hurts. My pipes at the crib weren't working. Life, man. Life's happening to me. 30 years old. JT Miller, 30 years old. I can relate. He's one of us, kind of, sort of, not really. But he is. Old school, kind of. And on that note, I cannot wait to see this dude play in the playoffs. And I think that's maybe saying a lot because historically speaking, outside of the bubble, JT Miller has not really produced a lot in the playoffs. But that was a different JT Miller. And man, the JT Miller in the playoffs via the bubble, that was a different JT Miller. Hey, JT Miller last year, that was a different JT Miller. Hey, that JT Miller from a couple of years ago putting up 99 points. The one we have now is a different JT Miller. But more importantly, he's a better JT Miller. He's gotten better, way better. Somehow, some way. Another dude on this team willing this team to victory. The top end talent. The way they're doing it this year, second to none. JT Miller, man, the engine, the guy, the MVP for your Vancouver Canucks. And I gotta say it too, man, for real. I don't know if Beggsy mentioned this, but I feel as if around the league, and yeah, you can thank us for this, for real. We've been bashing JT Miller for years and years and years. I haven't, but I'm gonna be on your team, right? We are all Canucks. Collectively, I feel as if this guy has been thrown under the bus far too much. And it wasn't too long ago where the city wanted him out, thus maybe creating a certain aura around JT Miller, around the league. And to keep it broad, I feel as if people know what he is. In NHL terms, maybe JT Miller across the league is a what? 87, 88 overall player, a lot of offense, sucks on defense. And I feel as if there's been some viral clips this year, I think courtesy of the Spittin' Chicklets, talking about that. How Miller's not that good. His numbers are inflated via the power play. He's this and that, blah, blah, blah. We got to defend this guy. He deserves it. Not just because he's a Canuck, but because he's shoved a lot of those narratives right up the rear end of all his haters. Because he's changed. He's different. He's a lot better at hockey. And he did it at the impossible age of 30. Not a lot of players can do that. And nobody expected JT Miller to do that. The intensity, the work rate, being mistake-free, elevating, changing the game, changing the narrative for your Vancouver Canucks, all in all makes him this team's MVP. Which is so ridiculous because Quinn Hughes, man, we've never seen anything like it. Have we gotten so much Quinn Hughes early on that I've already gotten bored of Quinn Hughes? I don't know if that's the reason for my answer here. I just enjoy watching JT Miller play hockey and can't wait for him to do so in April and May. So yeah, that's my spiel. No debate. That being said, let's talk more about these metaphorical team awards so far. And I'm going to ask the questions. Let us know in the comments below who would win these other awards. And Beggsy, if you're listening to this, we'll talk more about this tomorrow where I'll get your answers, okay? Award number one. Who's the Canucks' biggest X factor? Brock Boeser or Filip Hronek? Those are the only two options. Now, maybe I should switch up that award. Who's impressed you the most? Because those two, you want to talk about elevating expectations. They've done so. They have skyrocketed. We've been talking about this all of last week, right? The Canucks don't just have 4 elite players. Demko, Hughes, Miller, Pettersson. They have 6. Look at the numbers. That's a lot. A lot. Hronek, Boeser joined that conversation. Who has impressed you the most? AKA has now become this huge X factor for this team and its overall success at the end of the year. If you asked me maybe a week ago, the easy answer is Filip Hronek. Because defense, man, it wins championships. And I feel as if he went from being a really good top 4 complimentary D-man type of guy, could play on your top pair, to, he just might be his own number 1 D-man. We may have 2 of those guys on this team. I think so. I love the arrogance, the cockiness, the confidence, and the skill, his awareness. The dude's a baller. But we said this term a couple minutes ago. Am I going to get banned for saying this? We said the whole shoving it up the rear end, right? Sticking the finger to your haters. Yo, Brock Boeser, I was shipping this guy to town multiple times. For a defenseman, a top 4 D-man, for cap relief. And now he's at the top of the NHL when it comes to goal scoring. And I, for whatever reason, am just more impressed with his two-way ability, his engagement, his intensity. his will to win board battles in the offensive zone. He is somebody that has gotten way better at hockey, has taken his game to a level where I didn't expect him to have a chance at getting it to, especially in Vancouver. Brock Boeser makes us a lot better. Brock Boeser, the biggest surprise. The truth, man, the truth. Did I just compile 3 trophies into one? Who's impressed you the most? Biggest X factor, biggest surprise? I kind of did. Let me know in the comments below who wins that debate, that trophy. Anywho, next up. Most underrated player. I love this award because you need these guys, man. They're so important. And I know the word underrated and its connection to the world of sports in this type of conversation is redundant, but we all love it. We all love it. And we all love Sam Lafferty right now. Again, recency bias, sure. You asked me a week ago, it's an easy answer. It's Nils Höglander. You asked me 7 weeks ago, it's Ian Cole. But right now, it's Sam Lafferty. And we talked about JT Miller playing maybe only 4 or 5 bad periods of hockey, maybe 6 all season long. Sam Lafferty, for what he is, for what he brings, he's up there when it comes to consistency, shift in and shift out. He's also a big reason why Höglander has stepped up as well. Those two have good chemistry. I feel as if Höglander has learned a lot from the way Sam Lafferty plays. Lafferty, also somebody that I questioned. I questioned a lot. I've been wrong a lot of times so far this season in 2023, 2024. That's the truth. And maybe I'm warming up to guys like Boeser, to Lafferty because of it. Who knows? All in all, super impressed. Seems like a flex player. Can play all over the lineup and do his thing. Another guy who I'm excited to watch in April. Another guy that, again, you'd like the Canucks to sign him, but at the same time, I say they ride it out. They ride it out. At the end of the day, these guys are flex guys, bottom 6 players. There's a lot of good ones in the NHL. We got a couple. We're blessed. But I wouldn't extend him. I wouldn't extend him to the season's over. Let him play for it the whole way through. The whole way through. I was going to say the whole way true. Same-ish, right? Give him that motive. Give him the reason to bring it all season long, and he's going to help your team win. Best off-season signing. That's the next award. We had a couple, right? Suter, Bluger, Soucy, and Ian Cole. Who's been the best? I think Ian Cole wins this award if he's not playing with Noah Juleson and is scared every time he hits the ice. Because I can see it. He's nervous to play hockey right now because he's playing with Noah Juleson. And because of it, his play has slipped off just a bit. So I'm going to have to go somewhere else. And this dude, he's hurt right now. But has been way better than expected. And I hope to get him back soon, man. You want to talk about like a new, like lowercase X factor at the time in which he comes back? He's this guy, and that's Carson Soucy. Because when he comes back, the Canucks are going to have 6 NHL defensemen. When he comes back and they're all healthy, I want to take the day off just to look back in time and see how our D-core looked 12 months ago, 14 months ago. Carson Soucy, really good. Carson Soucy, good on the PK, IMO. Carson Soucy made Tyler Myers a better player. That's impossible. When he got hurt, we had the conversation here on Locked On Canucks. Beggsy shook it off. He said, no big deal. A team shouldn't worry about losing a number 6 D-man, okay? A depth guy. Don't worry. It's nothing. Well, it's something. It's been something. It's forced the issue. He was out for 8 weeks. 3 weeks later, the Canucks made a trade, right? 2 weeks later for Zadorov. That's big. Because they know they wouldn't be able to survive playing Friedman and Juleson and company game in and game out. The standard, man, it's still being set. The expectations are rising. And with the expectations coming to a new level for this organization, for this group of players that haven't really dealt with this situation at all, things are going to get harder. Teams are going to play the Canucks way harder. Way harder. Again, making things harder in general to win games, to keep it up. What's the Dr. Dre quote, right? Yeah, it's cool when you get to the top. I'm paraphrasing. It's cool when you get to the top, but it's way harder to stay up there. This all being said, I think it's going to be easier, a lot easier, when Carson Soucy comes back, and that's an easy thing to say. And I'm convinced that when he gets back, and if we're all healthy with the top six, the Canucks are going to go on a run. And it's going to be divine timing, because around that time, right, what would it be, like game 50, game 60, around that time, Carson Soucy's back in the flow of things. Dude, that's a great path to use for momentum, for fluidity, right before the playoffs. Get everything going in motion. Cannot wait to get Carson Soucy back. Okay, that's enough of me. That's my spiel. Let me know in the comments below who wins those awards. The MVP, biggest X Factor, Brock Besser, Filip Hronek, the most underrated Canuck, and the best signing from the offseason. And if you're listening to this on a podcatching platform, DM us at Locked On Canucks on Twitter, and we'll share your answers with the program. We'll get to the other side. I think Beggsy did one more segment, the Cam Neely Former Canuck of the Week. You're listening to Locked On Canucks.
I gotta ask you, have you ever been stressed out by buying tickets at the last minute? I'm a big last minute deals guy, and I found that the best place for killer deals at the last minute is Game Time. Game Time, they got my back. I get these emails from Nicole at Game Time, and she's always teasing me with concerts and events this week in my area. Not only are those weekly emails a tease, but Game Time also offers me flash deals on last minute tickets. You want flash deals on last minute tickets to go catch your Vancouver Canucks? Make sure you use Game Time. And hey, honest person, honest podcast, that's how I got my tickets for the Canucks and Devils game tonight, baby. So make sure you save the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. And download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, welcome back to Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And being a Canucks fan has been sad for a long time, and that's why we like to kind of poke fun at ourselves here in the final segment of the show when we shout out the Cam Neely Former Canuck of the Week.
I don't wanna say goodbye.
Now for this week, the Cam Neely Former Canuck of the Week. Is this guy even a former Canuck? I mean, he spent some time with the organization. He played for the Utica Comets. He was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Josh Levo almost 5 years ago now, pretty much 5 years to the day, back on December 3rd there. But man, oh man, he's found a spot in the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes, and he's absolutely ripping it up right now. I'm talking about Michael Carcone, okay? I think you'd have to be a pretty to have heard of this name before, but he to raise some eyebrows around the NHL. So Michael Carcone now has 12 goals in 23 games, playing fourth line minutes for the Arizona Coyotes. He's putting up some Andre Kuzmenko-like shooting percentage right now. 35% of his shots are going in the net. He has scored 5 goals in his last 4 games. Even had a goal, scored in his 4th straight game during the Coyotes' 6-0 win over the Washington Capitals last night. Again, got the goal despite playing only 8 minutes and 40 seconds. It's a little guy, okay? I'm not honest person, honest podcast, not the biggest guy in the world. I relate to guys like Michael Carcone, okay? He's listed at 5'9", 170 pounds. And yeah, shout out to him, man. Those Arizona Coyotes, they're doing things right now, okay? Bit of an unheralded team. Easy team to cheer for, unless, of course, you're hoping exiled from Arizona at some point, which, let's be real, is for the betterment of the NHL if that happens. But with guys like Michael Carcone scoring goals and Connor Ingram in net for them, who's like 10-3 or 11-3. It's a bunch of nobodies who are getting things done right now for the Arizona Coyotes, and that includes fourth line legend Michael Carcone. Let me shout out one crazy stat for you right here. Michael Carcone is tied for the league lead with 11 even strength goals on the season. Only Artemi Panarin also has 11. So Artemi Panarin and Michael Carcone, two best players in the NHL right now. Just going to say it. Shout out to the little guys, okay? And shout out to you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Canucks, whether you are an everydayer, an occasional listener, a first-time listener, or, of course, a new subscriber. We love each and every one of you, your families, and your dogs, too. It'll be a late night for Beggsy, downtown at the Canucks game, chugging some beers in the stands, but we'll be back tomorrow morning. Hopefully, Kyle and I are back together, virtually, in the same virtual room for another episode of Locked On Canucks. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. The guy you heard before, his name is Kyle Bhawan, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.